Holocaust Remembrance Week aligns this year to the liberation of Buchenwald, and because the exiting of that camp was over a week, the discovery and the communications happened in the middle of that week, and official liberation happened on April 11th. Today was Holocaust Remembrance Day in Israel. If you're not familiar with this, siren sound and everything stops in that moment while it's going on. I'm going to play a clip. There's nothing in the clip, but I will say if you're neurodivergent and you are sensitive to sounds, you might find this video clip a little irritating. So I'm just going to have that caveat. There's nothing else in there that's alarming. So, a lot of people don't have a full understanding on the Holocaust. The Nazi final solution for the Jewish peoples didn't really start in earnest until 1942. And what I mean by that is the actual wholesale industrial grade execution and extermination of human beings. The failure of the Russian front and the ability to take Moscow is actually what started this final solution from being implemented. Originally, the idea was that the Jewish peoples would be put somewhere in the Balkans. And then when France collapsed, it was, we're going to put them to Madagascar because France controlled Madagascar. And then when they started Operation Barbarossa and invaded Russia, it was going to be, Stalin has all these gulags out in Russia. When we're done overtaking Russia, we'll just move everybody to Siberia and use the existing Russian infrastructure. And that is what happened. The first concentration camp that was built was Dachau, and Dachau opened in 1933. Dachau did not hold Jews. It held socialists, communists, trade union leaders, college professors, activists, journalists. Forget my Jewish faith, it included people like us. And what it included largely was people that were enemies of Adolf Hitler. Yes, there's a trope that goes around that Adolf Hitler was a socialist, simply because the name socialist is in the name of the Nazi Party. But that's like saying North Korea is a democracy simply because they have democratic in their name. Buchenwald was notorious even by death camp standards. Ilse Koch was known as the bitch of Buchenwald. She was so evil. Jennifer, the Nazis arrested her in 1943. She was known for having collections of cured and mummified human skins, tattoos. She had a lamp that was made with the foot as the base of a human being.
Yep.
Buchenwald was officially liberated on April 11th. And as U.S. troops were closing in, the Germans started to evacuate prisoners out of the camp. They wanted to actually blow up the camp and kill all the prisoners to eliminate any evidence that the camp had existed. A Polish POW who had survived in Buchenwald since 1941, who was a radio man in the Polish army, had built a shortwave radio and a small generator that they kept hidden in a movie room. I mean, think almost like Stalag 17, the movie, or Hogan's Heroes. The resistance leaders in the camp decided that their situation was so desperate on April 8th, 1945, today. They needed to risk having the radio detected and being killed before all the prisoners were evacuated out and would certainly die anyway. They typed out a message in Morse code to the Army of General Patton. This is the Buchenwald concentration camp, SOS. We request help. They want to evacuate us. The SS wanted to destroy us. They had no idea if they were going to get a response. They got a response. The radio operator actually fainted when they got a response. And the response that they got was Kilo Zulu, Bravo uniform. And I know that that was not the phonetic alphabet of the day. I am modernizing it. Hold out, rushing to your aid, staff of 3rd Army. The inmates staged an uprising. They had using weapons that they had stolen since 1942. They had 92 rifles, Jennifer, and 1 machine gun. They overran the small group of guards. They literally tore some of them to pieces with their bare hands. They took some others as prisoners. And it was during this uprising that a lone U.S. soldier arrived at the prison camp. His name was Rick Carrier, and we have an interview with him.
Rick Carrier is one such hero. The World War II veteran was the first American to discover Germany's Buchenwald camp, ultimately leading to its liberation. I spoke to Rick Carrier, and now, even at 90 years old, he relives that day in incredible detail. Here is his story.
I saw the opening of Buchenwald, the main gate, and I had with me. I went up there because I wanted to find space material for engineering. That we needed rocks, we need timber, we need all sorts of stuff to build roads with, and that was my job, was to find these things. When we went up to the camp and went in there, I was very cautious. And when I got in there and looked at it, I said, woo. I parked the Jeep in the woods and then walked around the other side, and they were over to the barbed wire fence. When I got there, I looked down, and there was a guy crawling underneath the wire because they'd cut off the electricity. And he was snaking underneath the wire, and the barbed wire was ripping his back like a cat was ripping apart. And I mean, his back was just streaks of blood. It's torn up because he wanted out of there. Yeah. I got down, and I got my clippers out, and I cut a big oval in the barbed wire, and he got out. But when he got out, he stood up. And now this man was nothing more than a human skeleton with skin on it. His eyes were black rings and little dots in them for the irises. Every part of his body had sores on it, vituperating pus coming out of the eyes. But he came at me, and I saw something in his eye that I had never seen before.
What was that?
I could see love, and I could see affection pouring out of the eye, this body, and the hands on it, and he couldn't speak. And he was walking toward me, shuffling, and he knew what I gave him. But he wanted to tell me that, and behind him was 3 others coming out with him, and they come over to him, and I said, whoa, wait a minute. Now, the odor in this situation was unbelievable. You think about a rotten egg. Well, just think of rotten egg and a dozen other things that are foul smelling, because that woofed in me, and I felt myself begin to collapse again, because that happened to me earlier, and I really started to go down. I said, no, I can't do this. So I backed up a little bit. When I backed up, I heard machine gun fire, and behind me, up in the tower, clock tower in the front, the machine gun bullets knocked the glass out of the front, and I looked up, and it was 3:15 in the afternoon. It stopped. And I said, it's time to get out of here. I spoke to my colonel. He said, I'd already spoken to the Eisenhower's office and also Patton's office, and I want you to go up there, back to the camp, and be there tomorrow morning at 8:30, so that when the tank comes down from this 8th Army Tank Corps, you show him where this is. And then he'll go up, and you then blow off the rope and get with it with him, and then call us and tell us it's okay to come up. So that became the official opening day for Liberation Day for Buchenwald. And so that, the 11th, is the official day. That way we had everything up. But when we got up there, the tank got up there, I blew the lock off the gate. The lock was nothing more than a chain, and I wrapped primer cord around the chain, and they were like a pair of big shears cutting it off. And the lock fell on the ground, and the chain fell on, and the hand of one of those guys come out and took it in, a souvenir. And then the gate slid open, the tank went in, and all the guys piled out and started giving chocolate to it. And they didn't know at the time, but 2 pellets took the chocolate and ate them. And they took 3 steps and fell dead. They couldn't take it. And within minutes, nurses and doctors came in and said, you can't feed these people that. And they started taking them, cleaning them up, delousing them, and taking them to place and giving them baths.
So just to clarify, because I'm seeing in the comments over here, that interview was in 2015. The date was on the lower third, but you might have missed that on the lower third. Rick Carrier, original Antifa soldier in an original Antifa uniform. With an amazing story. He seems, Jennifer, like such an amazing man in that interview.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's so, I think so many people forget just how bad it was at the end. I mean, they had plans to either blow up concentration camps when they knew that basically it was up and they were done, or to basically just mass murder everybody that was left in the concentration camps. I actually TA'd classes on the Holocaust and American life and then Nazi Germany in the Holocaust when I was still taking classes at UW. And so we actually showed students some of the videos that were made when they were actually liberating the camps, because they went in and took videos for evidence at the Nuremberg trials. And so there were actually people that collected, SS officers that collected shoes, they collected jewelry, they had mass pits of dead bodies. And so, and a lot of the German people were like, we didn't know what was going on, but these same people in the villages down below saying they didn't know what was going on were actually going up and reburying the bodies farther away because they could smell them down in the town and they didn't like it. So the German people were actually very much complicit in this. So I think there's so much people still don't fully understand about the Holocaust, but it's an important thing to learn about because it's not something that could never happen again. I mean, we've seen civil war, genocide, all of these things, not to the degree of the Holocaust, but it is something that eventually could be repeated if we don't remember what happened 7 decades ago.
Yeah. I'd like to add to that story in that I had an opportunity to speak to a gentleman named Joe. Joe was in the Armored Infantry Division, Battalion 6, and was among the first U.S. troops inside the Buchenwald death camp. And Joe got to tell me about his experience. What he told me was, first of all, they were a little frustrated with the prisoners. They had orders to take any guards they found alive for interrogation, and the prisoners had killed almost every guard in the place. And it is from Joe's account that I learned, in some cases, ripping them apart with their bare hands. They did have a small group of guards that they were there that were being held at gunpoint. They took charge of them. The U.S. troops were so angered, so horrified by what they saw. My father told me that the squad that they were in, I just gave away the punchline by accident. The squad that they were in made them stand on a pile of rotting corpses and told them that if they got off that pile, they would shoot them. He told me that the smell was unthinkable, beyond comprehension, and how they were just scarecrows. Mm-hmm. They were just human scarecrows. Yeah. Skin, bones, barely able to move, covered in their own filth, and shared the same story that Rick Carrier shared. They, once it got food, would eat the food and drop dead. Their body couldn't process the food. They were ordered by a colonel to not talk about what they saw there. Joe was one of the first people into the camp on the next day after Rick Carrier arrived there. What's really fascinating to me on the Rick Carrier story, Jennifer, is how he talks about hearing machine gun fire. And we know where that machine gun fire was coming from when we learn the rest of the history. Of course, he doesn't know that, but the word is out. The Americans are here. They don't know it's just one American, and they're taking it as this is our opportunity to strike back. Rick Carrier died on December 2nd, 2016. So Rick is no longer with us. Joe died on October 10, 1998. Joe was buried in Arlington National Cemetery. Joe is my father. And he was part of the original Antifa army. He put the fun in dysfunctional because of everything that he saw and witnessed in World War II. But I'm damn proud of him tonight. So it was an honor to hear his story, which he told me in one evening, and he never spoke of it again. And I'm sure glad I got to hear it, and I'm sure glad I got to remember it.
Definitely. Props to your father, David. He's a good man.
Mods and admins, what is the winning story? And while we wait for the winning story, we'll do a little pause for the cause. Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events live as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.